The Middle Ages, also known as the Dark Ages, was a period in European history that lasted from the 5th to the 15th century. It was a time when most people were ignorant of the world around them, living in poverty, disease, and constant warfare. But did you know that this wasn't just Europe? This was the whole world. During the Middle Ages, there was no electricity, internet, or even clean water. Life expectancy was short and brutal. People didn't understand how the world worked. They believed the earth was flat and the sun and moon were gods. There was no such thing as human rights. Slavery was legal and common. And women had no rights at all. The Middle Ages were a time when superstition and religion ruled over reason and science. It was a time when people were afraid of the unknown and believed that everything was controlled by fate. Superstitions ran rampant and people believed that everything was controlled by fate. But it wasn't always like this. Before the Middle Ages, there was the Classical Era, a time of great civilizations and cultural achievements. In Greece, Rome, and Persia, people lived in relative peace and prosperity. They developed advanced systems of government, law, and medicine. They built great works of art and architecture. They invented the wheel and the printing press. They explored the world and discovered new lands. They made incredible discoveries in astronomy, mathematics, and science. They created new technologies and innovations. And they left behind a legacy that has lasted for centuries. But then something happened. The Classical Era came to an end and the Middle Ages began. The Roman Empire fell apart. The Greek city-states were conquered. The Persian Empire collapsed. And Europe was plunged into a period of darkness and ignorance. So what happened? Why did the world go backwards? Why did the people of the Middle Ages regress so much? To answer this question, we have to take a look at some of the events that happened during the Middle Ages. One of the most significant events that occurred during the Middle Ages was the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 AD. This event marked the end of the Classical Era and the beginning of the Middle Ages in Europe. The Western Roman Empire had been under pressure for centuries from various Germanic tribes. Eventually, these tribes invaded and conquered the empire, leading to the deposition of the last Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus. The fall of the Western Roman Empire had a profound impact on Europe. The centralized government and infrastructure that had been put in place by the Romans disappeared. Trade routes were disrupted and the economy declined. The Roman system of law and justice collapsed and violence and disorder became widespread. The population of Europe also declined significantly due to factors such as disease and warfare. This decline led to a shortage of labor and a decrease in agricultural production. All of these changes contributed to the overall decline of civilization in Europe, setting the stage for the Middle Ages. Another major event that occurred during the Middle Ages was the rise of Christianity as a dominant religion in Europe. As the Roman Empire was declining, Christianity began to spread throughout the continent. By the end of the Middle Ages, Christianity was the dominant religion in Europe and had a profound impact on the culture, values, and beliefs of the people. The Catholic Church became a powerful institution with significant influence over political and social affairs. Monasteries and cathedrals were built, and missionaries spread the Christian faith throughout Europe and beyond. The rise of Christianity also led to the development of new art forms, literature, and music that celebrated religious themes. Overall, the rise of Christianity was a defining feature of the Middle Ages and had a lasting impact on European history. Yet another significant event that took place during the Middle Ages was the Black Death pandemic, which ravaged Europe in the 14th century. This devastating outbreak of bubonic plague is estimated to have killed around 25 million people in Europe, which was nearly half of the population. The Black Death had a profound impact on medieval society. It led to widespread panic, social unrest, and economic disruption. The pandemic also contributed to the decline of feudalism and the rise of new economic and political systems. Additionally, the Black Death had a profound impact on art, literature, and culture, inspiring works that explored themes of death, suffering, and the human condition. Overall, The Black Death was a pivotal event in medieval history that had far-reaching consequences for European society. These are just a few of the events that occurred during the Middle Ages. Other significant events include the Crusades, the Mongol invasions, the rise of Islam, and the Hundred Years' War. Each of these events contributed to the chaos and destruction that characterized the Middle Ages. So, why did the world go backwards? Why did the people of the Middle Ages regress so much? There is no single answer to this question, but historians generally agree that several factors contributed to the regression. One factor was the fall of great civilizations such as Greece, Rome, and Persia. When these civilizations fell, their knowledge and innovations were lost or forgotten. Without the advancements of the classical era, the Middle Ages would never have existed. Another factor was the rise of Christianity, which discouraged critical thinking and promoted blind faith. This created a society that was more concerned with pleasing God than understanding the world around them. Finally, the Black Death and other plagues that ravaged Europe killed millions of people and devastated the economy. This led to widespread poverty and famine, which made it difficult for people to learn and innovate. In short, the Middle Ages were a time of regression because people were poor, uneducated, and superstitious. They didn't understand the world around them, and they were afraid of the unknown. But this wasn't the case everywhere. While Europe was plunged into darkness, other parts of the world were making incredible advancements. In China, the Song dynasty was in full swing. This was a golden age in Chinese history when the country was wealthy, powerful, and innovative. The Chinese invented gunpowder, the compass, and paper money. They created new technologies and innovations that helped improve the lives of their citizens. They built great cities and infrastructure that rivaled those of the classical era. Meanwhile, in India, the Gupta Empire was ushering in its own golden age. This period is often referred to as the classical age of India, and for good reason. During the Gupta Empire, India was a center of learning and scholarship. Great works of literature, mathematics, and astronomy were produced. Indian scientists made incredible discoveries and innovations. They invented the decimal system and developed advanced theories of gravity and trigonometry. They also made significant advances in medicine and surgery. The Gupta Empire was a beacon of knowledge and culture that rivaled the classical civilizations of Greece and Rome. It wasn't until the Renaissance that Europe began to emerge from the darkness of the Middle Ages. This was a period of renewed interest in classical learning and culture. Europeans began to explore the world again and make new discoveries. They began to question traditional beliefs and think critically about the world around them. They invented new technologies and innovations that helped improve their lives. The Renaissance marked a transition from the ignorance and superstition of the Middle Ages to a new era of enlightenment and reason. The Middle Ages were a time of great challenges and hardships for humanity. But they were also a time of great achievements and advancements. Despite the regression in Europe, other parts of the world were making incredible progress. And the seeds of the Renaissance were already being planted. It's important to remember that the Middle Ages weren't just a time of darkness, but also a time of hope and renewal. This video is part of a series on the history of civilization. If you want to watch the next video in the series, click here. Thank you for watching.